My name is Lisa Simpson, and I was 23 years old when the man I thought I would grow old with asked me if he could fall in love with other women without losing me. We had been together for 4 years. 4 years might not sound like much to people who've lived twice that long, but at our age, it was everything. We grew up together in a way, through late-night study sessions, first real jobs, cramped apartments, and that strange stage of life where you're no longer a teenager, but still terrified of becoming an adult. Our relationship had never been loud. No screaming fights, no dramatic breakups. We were steady, predictable, safe. The kind of couple people described as solid. And that's why I didn't see the crack forming. The month before everything fell apart, nothing obvious happened. That's what still messes with my head the most. There was no explosion, no suspicious lipstick, no mysterious absences. He still came home every night, still ate dinner with me, still asked how my day was, but something was missing. His attention felt divided, like I was sharing space with something invisible. His phone was always face down. When I spoke, his responses were automatic, delayed by a half second, as if he was answering from another room in his mind. When I asked if he was okay, he'd smile and say, "Yeah, just tired." I believed him, because trusting him was easier than admitting I might be losing him. Then came the evening that rewrote my life. It was quiet, no music playing, no TV on. He sat down across from me on the couch, hands clasped together so tightly his knuckles turned pale. "Can we talk for a minute?" he asked. That sentence alone made my stomach tighten. People say those words all the time, but somehow you always know when they mean this kind of talk. He didn't rush. He spoke slowly, carefully, like someone trying not to set off a bomb. He said he loved me, said our relationship mattered, said he'd been doing a lot of thinking. Then he dropped it, softly, almost gently. "I think we should consider an open relationship." For a moment, I genuinely thought I'd misheard him. He explained what he meant, like it was a concept I just hadn't encountered before. How we could still be together, still be each other's main person, but also have the freedom to see other people, date, explore, experience life. He used words like honesty and growth. I felt my chest go cold. From the very beginning, we had been monogamous. That wasn't implied. It was discussed. It was agreed on. We had built our entire relationship on the idea that we chose each other exclusively. So when he suggested changing that fundamental rule, it felt like discovering that the house I'd been living in was quietly being dismantled from the inside. I asked him one question. "When did you start feeling this way?" He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything he didn't say. I realized then that this wasn't a sudden philosophical awakening. This was something he'd been carrying for a while. Something he'd already processed without me. Something he'd already crossed emotionally. I stood up. My hands were shaking, but my voice wasn't. "I can't do that," I said. "If that's what you want, then we're not compatible anymore." He looked stunned, as if he'd expected negotiation, compromise, tears. "You're not even willing to talk about it?" he asked. "I am talking about it," I replied. "This is me being honest." To me, love wasn't about keeping options open. It was about choosing one person, again and again, even when it was hard. And if he no longer believed in that, then the relationship I thought we had was already gone. I ended it that night. I packed a bag and left our apartment, my heart pounding so loudly it felt like it might crack my ribs open. I expected to feel devastated immediately. Instead, I felt hollow, like my body hadn't caught up to what my mind had just done. The devastation came later. The next morning, my phone started lighting up. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. His voice sounded different, panicked, broken. I didn't mean it like that. I wasn't thinking clearly. "Please don't throw us away over one conversation." He cried. He apologized. He said he didn't actually want an open relationship, that he'd just been confused, that he'd misspoken. And that's when doubt crept in. Friends told me I'd been too quick, that 4 years deserved more than a single conversation. that maybe I should have slowed down and tried to understand where he was coming from. They asked if I'd considered that maybe he was just being honest, and I punished him for it. Late at night, alone with my thoughts, I replayed the moment over and over. His hesitation, his words, his tone. Was I too rigid? Did I react out of fear instead of love? But every time I imagined going back, something in my chest tightened. Because deep down, I knew you don't ask for permission to step outside a monogamous relationship unless your heart has already wandered somewhere else. I didn't have proof. Not yet, but the instinct that told me to walk away refused to quiet down. And soon, I would find out why. For a few days after the breakup, I tried to do what everyone kept telling me to do: move on. I deleted our photos from my phone. I stopped sleeping on my side of the bed like he might still be there. I told myself that even if the breakup hurt, it was clean, honest, final. But doubt is loud when you're alone. Friends kept checking in, not with comfort, but with questions. Are you sure you didn't overreact? 4 years is a long time to throw away. People change, Lisa. Maybe he was just trying to be honest. I nodded when they said it, but every time, something inside me recoiled. Because honesty doesn't feel like a surprise attack. It doesn't come after weeks of emotional distance and secretive behavior. Still, their voices started to mix with my own thoughts. At night, I replayed the month before the breakup like surveillance footage. His phone face down on the table, his sudden interest in personal growth, the way he'd smile at messages and quickly lock the screen when I walked by. I hated myself for noticing these things after the fact. That's when the unease settled in, low and persistent, like a splinter you can't reach. I tried to ignore it. I told myself that suspicion would only make things worse, but curiosity won. I started small, casual. I reached out to mutual friends, not accusing, not dramatic, just asking questions. Did he seem okay lately? Did he mention anything weird to you? Most shrugged it off, said he was stressed, said relationships are complicated. Then I messaged Maya. She'd been his friend longer than she'd been mine. Smart, quiet, the type who noticed things but didn't volunteer information unless pressed. At first, she responded vaguely. Then she stopped replying. That silence told me more than words ever could. When she finally agreed to meet me for coffee, she didn't look surprised to see me. She looked guilty. We sat across from each other in a corner cafe, the smell of burnt espresso thick in the air. She wrapped her hands around her mug like she needed something solid to hold on to. Lisa, she said quietly, I didn't know how to tell you. My stomach dropped. She took a breath, then another. He's been seeing someone for a while. The words didn't hit me like a punch. They landed slowly, sinking into places I hadn't protected. Seeing someone, how? I asked, even though I already knew. She hesitated, then said it plainly. He cheated. The room seemed to tilt. Maya explained that it wasn't a random hookup. It was someone connected to our circle, a woman he'd met through a mutual friend. It had started weeks before he ever brought up the open relationship. So that's what it was, I whispered. A strategy. Maya nodded, eyes shiny with regret. He didn't want to feel guilty. He wanted permission retroactively. Everything snapped into focus. The distance, the rehearsed speech, the panic when I didn't negotiate. The open relationship wasn't honesty. It was damage control. I thanked Maya, though I'm not sure why. Maybe because part of me had still been holding on to the illusion that I'd imagined everything. I walked home in a daze, the city buzzing around me like nothing had changed. People laughed, cars honked, life went on. Inside me, something hardened. Later that night, I did something I hadn't planned to do. I messaged her. The woman he'd been seeing. I didn't accuse. I didn't threaten. I simply said, I think we need to talk. She responded within minutes. I was hoping you'd reach out. We agreed to meet the next day at a small pub downtown, a neutral place, public enough to keep things civil. I barely slept that night. Part of me wanted revenge. Part of me wanted confirmation. And part of me, quiet but stubborn, just wanted the truth from someone who had no reason to lie to me. Because if I was going to let go of 4 years, I needed to know I hadn't destroyed something real over a misunderstanding. I needed to know my instincts hadn't betrayed me. By morning, I already suspected the answer, but I wasn't prepared for what I'd learn next. The pub was louder than I expected. Midday crowds, clinking glasses, a low hum of conversations layered on top of each other. It was the kind of place where people met to forget things, not confront them. I chose a table near the window anyway, somewhere public, neutral, impossible to dramatize. She arrived 5 minutes late. When I saw her, the first thing that surprised me was how normal she looked. No villain aura, no smug confidence, just a woman my age, nervously tucking her hair behind her ear, scanning the room like she wasn't sure she belonged there. She spotted me and froze. Then she walked over. "Lisa?" she asked softly. I nodded. She sat down, hands folded so tightly in her lap that her knuckles mirrored his had on the couch the night everything ended. "I'm really glad you reached out," she said. "I didn't know how to contact you without making things worse." That sentence cracked something open. I took a breath. "Did you know about me?" Her face fell instantly. "No," she said, shaking her head. "I swear to you, I didn't. I thought he was single. He told me he was." She didn't hesitate. She didn't deflect. And for the first time since the breakup, my chest loosened just a little. She explained everything. They'd met through a mutual friend. He'd complained about a recent breakup, said he was healing, said he wasn't ready for commitment but wanted honesty. She believed him, because why wouldn't she? "He told me about you yesterday," she continued, "when he called you, when you didn't respond. That's when I realized something was very wrong." She laughed weakly. I ended it immediately. I studied her face, searching for deception. I didn't find any. Instead, I saw embarrassment, regret, a quiet anger on my behalf. "I told him he didn't just cheat on you," she added. "He lied to both of us." I felt something shift then. Not relief exactly, but clarity. For weeks, I'd been bracing myself for cruelty, for justification, for some twisted logic that would make this hurt worse. Instead, I got honesty from the one person who owed me none. She insisted on paying for the drinks, said it was the least she could do. We talked for over an hour, not about him, but about life, about how easy it is to trust the wrong people when they sound sincere. At one point, a bitter, fleeting thought crossed my mind. If I wanted revenge, this would be it. She was kind, funny, grounded, the type of person he didn't deserve to know in any capacity. The thought faded as quickly as it came. Petty satisfaction wasn't worth poisoning my own closure. When we stood to leave, she looked at me and said, "You didn't overreact. You listened to yourself. I wish I had." I believed her. That night, I went home and did what I should have done earlier. I blocked him everywhere, every platform, every number, every digital doorway he could use to reach me. Then I gathered his things, the shirts he'd left behind, the book he never finished, the charger that somehow always ended up on my side of the bed. I packed them neatly into a box, sealed it, and addressed it to him. For a moment, I considered adding a note, something sharp, something clever. I didn't. Silence was stronger. As I taped the box shut, I realized something important. The open relationship conversation hadn't ended us. It had exposed the end that already existed. I hadn't lost 4 years. I'd gained proof that my instincts were still intact, that I trusted myself enough to walk away before being begged to accept less. In the days that followed, the noise died down. Friends stopped questioning me. The story lost its drama, but I didn't lose my peace, and that mattered more than being right. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do isn't staying to fix what's broken. It's leaving when you realize it was never whole.